What if I told you that what you're about to hear isn't random, but a direct message from God today, made specifically for you? Have you ever stopped to think if this silence you've been experiencing isn't exactly the moment preceding your greatest breakthrough? Today you will see what you've been asking for, because this message from God today carries an urgency and a sense of divine timing that you simply cannot ignore. Perhaps you've prayed, waited, and even wondered if God is really listening, but God is speaking to you today, right now, in a way that goes straight to your heart, exactly when you needed it most. You already know that feeling of waiting for answers, of keeping the faith even when nothing seems to change, and of wondering if God is answering your prayer today or if you are still in a waiting period. But what you are about to understand is that something is changing spiritually, and this message from God for you is not just encouragement, it's confirmation that your season is changing. You need to stay with me until the end, because what you will discover next may surprise you and confirm what you have already been feeling deep inside. And as this unfolds, you may begin to realize that this is not just another inspirational message, but a divine message today guiding you towards something you've been waiting for much longer than you imagined. And while this message continues to unfold within you, perhaps it's important to pause for a moment and acknowledge what it's awakening in your heart. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below about what has touched you the most so far, which part of today's message spoke most to your reality. Because when you share your experience, you not only express your faith but also strengthen other people who are going through the same process of waiting and transformation. And if you feel that this message from God today is somehow confirming something you've already been feeling, don't forget to leave your like, because that helps this video reach more people who also need to hear that God is speaking to you today and that they are not alone in this spiritual process. Each like here is not just a simple gesture, but a way to spread this message to those who need hope and direction. And if you're not already part of this community, subscribe to the Divine Call channel, because here we share exactly this type of content, spiritual messages, words of faith, and guidance that help you keep your connection with God alive amidst uncertainty. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content, creating a chain of faith, hope, and transformation. And while this message continues to echo within you, perhaps something deeper is happening at this very moment in your journey, something that isn't always visible on the outside, but that has directly impacted your decisions, your mindset, and even how you've been dealing with silence. Because before any external transformation, there is always an internal process, and often it is precisely behind the scenes of life that the greatest changes begin to take shape. You may not realize it, but this waiting period you experienced wasn't empty. There were silent prayers, nights spent lying in bed without answers, tears no one saw, but which carried a faith that still endured even amidst doubt. And perhaps you wondered if you were truly being heard, if all of this made sense, or if it was just a directionless phase. But there's a hidden truth in this process that few people understand. Silence isn't absence, it's preparation. You begin to see this journey from a different angle. You realize that even the pain had a direct impact on how you are being shaped today. Nothing was in vain, not even the moments when you thought about giving up. There is a spiritual movement that happens precisely when everything seems to stand still, and it is at this point that many answers begin to align invisibly, changing your perception, your mindset, and paving the way for decisions you will still make. And if this resonates with you in any way, comment below. This makes sense to me. And when you begin to see all of this from this new perspective, something within you also begins to change, as if an important piece finally falls into place in your understanding of life. Because there is a point in the journey where waiting ceases to be just waiting and transforms into preparation, into alignment, into a silent transformation that was happening all along without you realizing it. And it is precisely at this point that many do not understand the difference between the time of silence and the time of response. What few realize is that there is a spiritual process that doesn't follow the logic of haste, but rather the logic of inner formation. There was a time of waiting, yes, a time when everything seemed still, confusing, and even distant. But that time was never empty. It was building something within you, adjusting your mindset, strengthening your faith, and preparing you for the impact of what would come next. And now, at this specific moment in your journey, something is changing in the atmosphere of your life. What is happening is not just a phase change, it's a spiritual turning point, where what was once silence begins to transform into response. The waiting time is no longer the center of your experience, because the response time has begun to manifest in subtle ways, through opportunities, signs, encounters, and decisions that begin to align unexpectedly. And when you understand this, you realize that you're not behind schedule, you're not forgotten, and you're not off track, but exactly at the point where transformation begins to become visible. Comment below, I'm on this journey too. And when this shift begins to solidify within you, it's as if your perception of your own life begins to change silently, but profoundly. Situations that previously seemed completely blocked begin to reorganize themselves, not in an obvious or immediate way, but through small movements that indicate something bigger is at work. It is at this point that you realize that not everything that was closed was definitive, it was just waiting for the right moment to unlock itself. There's a hidden truth in this transformation process that many people only understand later. Doors that seemed impossible to open weren't truly locked forever. They simply weren't aligned with the right timing in your journey. And when that timing changes, everything around you begins to respond differently. What once required excessive effort begins to flow more naturally, as if the paths are starting to organize themselves behind the scenes of your reality. When you observe closely, you realize that these openings are not just coincidences, but part of a larger impact that is strategically shaping your journey. People, opportunities, and decisions begin to emerge unexpectedly, creating a sequence of events that previously seemed impossible. And it's precisely in this process that you begin to understand that it's not about forcing doors, but about recognizing when they are being opened before you. Comment below, this makes sense to me. And when you begin to perceive this opening movement, something even deeper happens within you, as if your mindset also begins to be reorganized from within. Because there is a difference between seeing external changes and understanding that a victory is already under construction even before it becomes visible. It is at this point that the journey ceases to be about uncertainty and begins to be about understanding, about perceiving signs that previously went unnoticed and now begin to make sense within a larger context. Often, the process seems silent on the outside, but inside there's a constant construction, almost like the backstage of a reality yet to be revealed. And this is where one of the greatest hidden truths of this journey comes in. Victory doesn't begin the moment everything is resolved, it begins the moment something inside you changes, when your belief becomes stronger than your doubt. This completely redefines how you approach decisions, challenges, and even delays that seemed unfair. When you understand this dynamic, you realize you're not in a position of loss, but of anticipation. There's an alignment happening that you can't fully see yet, but you can already feel it in small confirmations, encounters, and subtle changes that indicate direction. And this completely changes the emotional impact of your journey, because you stop reacting to what's missing and start recognizing what's already in motion. And it is at this point that a certainty begins to be born within you, a more stable, more conscious faith, which makes you understand that you will not lose this process, you will witness its result manifesting in due time, and that changes everything. Comment below, I'm ready to witness it. And when this awareness deepens within you, something even more subtle and powerful begins to happen. Your way of seeing life undergoes an internal transformation that no longer depends solely on external circumstances, but on a new mindset that forms from what you choose to believe. Because there is a point in the journey where it's no longer about what's happening around you, but about how you decide to remain in the face of what has not yet been fully revealed. This is the kind of change that doesn't make a sound, but redefines everything from the inside. Decisions become clearer, thoughts become more aligned, and even doubts lose some of the power they once had. And this is no coincidence. It's part of a deeper process of impact and reorganization of your journey. It's as if every experience lived up to this point has contributed to bringing you exactly to this moment of renewal, where a new phase begins to silently take shape. This inner movement makes you realize that it's not just about resisting, but about standing firm while something new is being built within you. A direction is being formed, a purpose that becomes clearer as you choose not to give up, even when you don't yet see all the answers. And it's at this point that you begin to understand that this isn't the end of a cycle, but the beginning of a new stage, where your transformation begins to take shape in a more conscious, stable way, and more aligned with everything you've experienced so far. Comment below, I'm ready for this change. And if you've made it this far, perhaps this wasn't just a video for you, but a moment of reflection within this entire journey we've built together throughout this message. In many cases, when a person stays until the end of something like this, it's not by chance, it's because there's a real connection with what was said, with what was felt, and with what is still forming within you. If this message resonated with your reality in any way, I want to invite you to continue being a part of it, because the idea here on the channel is precisely that, to bring words that strengthen, that help maintain faith, and that accompany you in these moments of transformation and decision. So if this made sense to you, subscribe to the channel to continue receiving this type of content and not miss the next messages that can further impact your journey. And leave a simple comment here, just so I know you were with me until the end, right? I'm with you until the end. This helps create that connection and shows that this message reached those who needed it. If this content brought you any clarity or peace, leave a like too, because that helps this video reach other people who may need exactly that same message today. And now, as a natural continuation of this moment, there's a video here that complements this topic and further deepens this journey of transformation and understanding. Click and continue with me there.